Like most things, the Switch 2 is an Xbox. Nintendo's February 2026 Partner Direct closed with a look at 3 different Bethesda games, all coming to Switch 2 within the next few months. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle alongside Fallout 4 Anniversary Edition had been previously announced for the platform, but this was our first look at Switch 2 specific gameplay. In addition, we got the announcement and first look at Oblivion Remastered for Switch 2. It's a fascinating spread in that each game is making use of a different engine, and it's clear we're getting very different results on Switch 2 for each one. And while we only have about 1 minute of footage for each game, the trailers were uploaded at a full 2160p, so I thought I'd take a moment to see what we can glean on the technical side of each of these games. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle was the first of these to have been announced for Switch 2, so let's start there. This game was a technical masterpiece when it initially released on Xbox at 60 FPS alongside a nice ray trace global illumination system. It picked up quite a few Best Graphics awards, and I'm overall pleased with how it looks so far on Switch 2. It does appear that we've dropped the frame rate down to 30 FPS, which was an expected drop to get this running on a handheld. It's the same frame rate you can expect running the game on a Steam Deck, so that makes sense. The game is clearly using some anti-aliasing or upscaling solution, which makes the resolution difficult to count from this very small sample. What I can say is that the underlying resolution is definitely sub 1080p, but in all fairness, so were several other console releases of this game, with even the Series X version generally sitting right at 1080p with occasional dips below. The gameplay we're seeing here looks fine, if a little soft. However, I'm very curious to see how it holds up in handheld mode. This game runs on a modified version of the id Tech 7 engine, and will be our first experience with that engine on Switch 2 after seeing its predecessors on Switch 1 in various Doom and Wolfenstein titles, games often referred to as impossible ports. I'll also end with a note that while the frame rate has indeed been dropped, I don't personally think this will have a substantial effect on this specific title. It's a very slow-paced game, so as long as 30 FPS can be maintained consistently, I don't see an issue here. Next up is Fallout 4, and this is the one I'm most concerned about. Fallout 4 originally released on PS4 and Xbox One way back in 2015, and even at that time I thought it was a pretty ugly looking game. The Anniversary Edition, which recently released for modern Xbox and PlayStation, brings with it some nice graphical updates, but in my opinion, what we've seen of the Switch 2 version leaves a lot to be desired. I think the core problem here may be that rather than upgrading the original Fallout 4 with Switch 2 in mind, which ought to be more than up to the task, it appears that the new Anniversary Edition is being downgraded for Switch 2 in ways that at times make it look worse than the original. All of this in service of frame rate and image quality that also don't seem particularly impressive. The trailer showed the game running at 30 FPS, with what looked to be a dynamic resolution maxing out at 1080p, but seemingly dropping below that in combat. Detail pop-in is aggressive, and dynamic shadows appear lower resolution than even the original release. This isn't the first Creation Engine title we have seen having trouble on Switch 2, as Skyrim also struggles in the frame rate department. Given what else we've seen running on Switch 2 with significantly better results, it's unclear what exactly the problem is here. Hopefully some work can be put into this engine on Switch 2, and we'll see the benefits of this in Skyrim and any future Bethesda Game Studios titles as well. Last but not least, we have the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered. Like Indiana Jones, this is a game that has proven somewhat demanding on much more powerful hardware than the Switch 2. So unlike Fallout 4, I fully expected some compromises here. So far, all of my resolution counts have come out to a full 1080p, though I fully expect that to be dynamic in the final game. My one note on image quality thus far is that there does not appear to be any anti-aliasing in place, leading to some very obvious pixel crawl in this trailer. Frame rate is generally 30 FPS, though oddly, I did spot a few shots that appeared to be running at around 40 FPS. This could be a 40 FPS performance mode, an unlocked mode, or it could simply be the shots being slightly sped up for the sake of the trailer. It's difficult to tell, but this release on other platforms did feature multiple performance modes, so it is possible we may be seeing the same on Switch 2. From an engine perspective, Oblivion Remastered is a unique situation. The game itself is being rendered by Unreal Engine 5, which has sort of been wrapped around the original Gamebryo engine, which is handling the logic in the same way it did for the original Oblivion release. That being said, I think our initial glimpse of it shows a lot of promise. Of the 3 games mentioned, this is definitely the one that struggled the most on Series X and PS5, and thus perhaps the one I'm most curious to try out on Switch 2. But that's all that I can glean from this very quick look at each of these games. I'm very optimistic about Indiana Jones and Oblivion, but I have some real concerns about Fallout 4. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing, give it a like, and check out NintendoWorldReport.com for a whole lot more. You can join our Discord if you'd like to chat about this or anything else Nintendo related, and if you want to reach out to me specifically, you can use the handle on screen on your social media platform of choice. With that, I'm John Reardon, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time. This video was made possible by our generous supporters on Patreon. Check out patreon.com/NWR for all the details.